Dyslexia is a specific learning difficulty that mainly affects a person's ability to read, spell, and use language to various degrees, but is completely unrelated to a person's general level of intelligence. It is a condition that affects around 10% of the population, 4% severely so. The exact cause of dyslexia is unknown, and the signs are not always obvious in young children, so it can sometimes go undetected. A large percentage of the population still do not understand what dyslexia is, the difficulties which the condition presents, and do not know how best to support them. As a result, dyslexic people have to overcome numerous barriers to make a full contribution to society. Dyslexia is a lifelong condition, but a range of educational programs and interventions are often effective in improving reading and writing skills in many children with the condition. Children with dyslexia face challenges on a day-to-day basis, but even children who have severe dyslexia can go on to lead full and productive lives.
What is dyslexia? The brain has two parts to it, the right side and left side. The right side is our creative side, like holistic thoughts, creativity, sports, intuition, art, and music. The left side is our academic side, like language, logic, communication, maths, and science. Dyslexic people use more of their right side, the creative side of the brain. Dyslexic people are intelligent, bright, and are geniuses, who more often thinks outside of the box. If you ever needed a person to invent something, choose a dyslexic person.
Dyslexia, it's mainly impacted my writing and my comprehension, which makes it very difficult for me to learn things.
I did have a rough time with spelling tests.
Yeah, at a young age, learning English as for me it was English as a foreign language. It was a complete nightmare.
And I felt that I was sort of stupid because I couldn't sort of like do things like the other children could. So my reading was a lot slower and it took me a lot longer to learn things.
So Jane, either here at Empton House or as a parent, how do you teach reading?
Well, over the years there's been the big debate about should it be look and say or should it be a phonic approach. And I think probably the safest way and the best way is to help children to develop both skills and a balance of skills. So if we take the words on the left, which are basically phonic words, dog, get, dad, etc. So the child can either sound out the word dog, d, or go, and then put it together as dog, or they might learn the word dog and just see it and know it visually. So there are two methods there, but they are basically regular words that are either recognised or can be sounded out. Dyslexics might find that very hard because they forget the sounds that the letters make, and even if they remember the sounds, they can't then put them together. On the right here, we have some irregular words, and of course if you try and sound those out, you end up with something like k, or m, e, or comi, or something like that. So these type of words are best used using visual skills. So you do come across children who are very good at phonically reading or decoding words, but don't recognise many irregular words. Or you get children who can learn words holistically, visually, but then they can't sound them out or work out what the sounds are within them, and then that begins to affect spelling.
And so, okay, so you've talked about reading, but on the spelling side, what would you recommend then?
Well, there are many dyslexic children who have trouble even spelling phonetically. So obviously we do a lot of training to help them learn to perceive sounds
Would you use
on words. And
individual?
yes, we use individual letters and then practicing putting them together. And then for the children who have a very poor visual memory, it's a question of repetition and not introducing too many irregular words too quickly.
Someone recommended sort of almost painting a word in the sky, in the air. Is that nonsense, or does that make sense?
No, not at all, because it really helps to learn words in a multi-sensory way. That means using as many senses as you can. So you say the word, you hear the word, you paint the word, you bake the word with dough. As many ways of getting it in using all the senses. And of course we teach touch typing, which is another way of seeing the word and typing the word and hearing the word. And also we don't just work with words out of context. Many children find that hard. Of course we use very carefully selected reading books where they can get the gist from the picture and from the story and from predicting what might happen and getting to know the characters. So they're not actually having to work hard on every single word, which is very tiring.
So how would a parent help a dyslexic child get started with things like reading and writing?
Well, if children have good oral language skills, they get off to a good start. So obviously reading to your child from an early age gives them rich vocabulary and a rich sense of grammar and helps them learn irregular verbs. Because a lot of dyslexics carry on saying the man runned after the dog for many years because they don't remember the irregular word ran. So reading to your child early, playing lots of games with sounds, I Spy with what letters words start with, and after that you can begin to ask them about words beginning with two consonants, such as something beginning with tr that has leaves on it and grows and you might have climbed a tr. So that's more complex than just asking them. And also just maybe labelling things around the house with very common words.
Little and often, usually, what I've heard is the best, but...
Yes, little and often. Just even having a blackboard where you might just have some very common words on that they can read as they're running past, rather than sitting down and doing homework when they're young.
In dyslexia, it seems to me that one of the most commonly missed areas is the emotional side. Teachers and parents are very good at noticing problems with reading, writing, with spelling, and even with maths. But there's very often a growing element of lack of motivation, low self-esteem, and upset, which develops as the child goes through school and the pressures become greater and greater. The problems seem to manifest themselves through a range of ways. Either young people become very quiet, very internal, they sit at the back of the class, avoid eye contact. The ones where somebody asks them to read, they'll get up and they'll suddenly disappear out to the toilet, they'll take all sorts of evasive tactics. Or you get the children who really mess around and become the class clowns, the children who will do anything to get out of learning or being very obviously struggling with learning difficulties. These are the children who want to be accepted by their friends, want to be accepted by their peer group, and therefore by being funny or by being very obvious, they get their street cred, but without looking as though they fail. From there onwards, as they get older, the anxiety levels often grow, the frustration often grows, and you sometimes get high levels of anger which appear as well, which can be very frustrating for teachers, for parents, and for the young person themselves.